My teen female, dad 36, married his wife Becca, 42, 2 years ago. She has 3 kids, teen female twins and a male tween, and I've known them for 5 years now. I don't get along with them apart from my stepbrother. For clarification, my mom's not in the picture anymore, and neither is their dad. My dad just received my grandparents' house. Granny passed away, and we're planning to move there. It has the same number of rooms, 4, but it has an oversized yard and a basement, and my dad says we can get a pool in a few years. I used to spend weekends with my grandparents, and so I already have a room there. My dad's old room. My grandparents renovated it so I could have my own bathroom and a bigger closet there. So when my dad said we were moving, he said I had to get rid of half of my furniture because I already have stuff there. I'll admit my room there is nicer than the one I have here because I was my grandparents' only grandchild, and they kept it modern. It seemed obvious that I was going to keep my room there. Becca didn't say anything at that time because she didn't know the room had a full bath and a walk-in closet. They visited the house last week to start moving some stuff while my step-siblings and I were at school. And at night, during dinner, Becca said that I'd have to choose some other room because the girls should get the one I use. Both my dad and I were confused, and she said it was better and the most practical thing, since the twins were 2 and they needed a bigger closet, and it would be better for them to have their own bathroom. I said sorry, but no, because my grandparents did all the modifications for me, and that's been my room for as long as I can remember. She and the girls wanted to push the subject, but my dad didn't let them and told my stepmom that they were going to talk later. My dad shut the thought down because the twins have been sulking, and my stepmom asked me to give it a thought because it wasn't fair for my sisters. The twins straight out called me an idiot, and my friend said I should give up the room because it's true that they need the space more. So am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It really doesn't matter what the twins want. That room has been yours for years. When your stepmother's parent passes and leaves them a house, they can keep the room they have at that house. As for them being salty about not getting it, tough noogies. I'm glad your dad stood up for you. That's the key thing for me. If they were all moving into a house that was new to them all, it'd make logical sense for the twins to have the bigger room. But that's not the case here. This house is already part of OP's life, and she already has her space there. Given the connection with the late grandparents, it would be unspeakably cruel to take that away against OP's will. You are the idiot. This room you had at your grandparents', is it bigger than the non-master room? I.e., are you expecting a larger room than the twins will share? That's not reasonable. People sharing a room should have the larger room versus someone in a room alone. The room in your grandparents' house isn't your room. It belonged to your grandparents, and now it belongs to your dad. This is more practical because you aren't going to be staying there longer than them. Suck it up and be an adult about it. The twins shared the same crowded womb for 9 months. They can share a smaller room. Why should OP be pushed out of her own room for her children? It's BS because I don't see how giving up your room would be better for OP. Hun, your stepmother was pretty much writing you off as unimportant, or else she would have acknowledged this would be a sacrifice for you. I hate to be the one to say this, but I'd talk to your dad if I were you and make sure he has a will that leaves the house to you. This has Cinderella vibes all over it. He should also be getting a postnup stating that the stepmother has no ownership rights to the house in the event of his death. Property that was inherited from his parents, in theory, isn't marital property. But given that she and her kids would have also lived there, she could argue that it became marital property and claim it by contesting the will. Hopefully your dad is around for a long, long time, but things happen. I, 27 female, have 2 older brothers, Jamie 40 and Ian 38. They're my half-siblings from our mom's first marriage. Mom divorced their dad when they were younger, and some years down the line she met my dad, and they had me. Unfortunately, my mom died when I was 4, but my dad ensured I still got to see my older brothers. Their dad didn't want to make that much effort to keep them in my life. I think he resented our mom for divorcing him, but their grandmother, Claire, 87, loved my mom and continued talking to her even after the divorce. It was because of Claire that I was still able to have a relationship with my brothers. She would invite my dad and me over to her house when the boys were there so we could spend time together. Or at the very least, she'd make their dad civil and keep in touch with us. Sometimes she'd just volunteer to watch me all on her own. I used to spend entire summers at her house when I was little. My dad wasn't close with his own family, and my mom's family always seemed a little distant with me. So it was nice to have Claire. She treated me just like my brothers, even though we weren't related. She was the only maternal figure I ever knew, and I loved her like family. Claire died a few months ago. She had been ill for a while, so we were expecting it, but it still sucked. She had stringent rules about how she wanted things to be carried out after she was gone, but she never discussed those rules or plans with me. I didn't expect to be in her will, but I was. She left some family jewelry, some sentimental items, and a decent sum of money to me. Some money was left to James, and her house plus a few other things were left to Ian. She didn't leave much for their dad. He was her only child. My brother James told me the other day that his dad isn't happy that his grandma left so much to me. James said that he doesn't feel it's right for me to accept any of the inheritance I received from her either, because I wasn't really her granddaughter. Ian knows about what James has said, how their dad feels, and he's mad at both of them for it. He said that Claire chose me to have those things and loved me like I was her grandchild, so other people's opinions don't matter. He also said she had her reasons for giving me those things. I decided to accept what she had left me, and now James is angry. So is their dad. Ian told me not to worry about them, but I felt bad. Am I the idiot for accepting the inheritance, even though I'm not really Claire's granddaughter? Not the idiot. Claire decided to give you those things. That's all that matters. You may not have been her granddaughter by blood, but obviously, you were her granddaughter by heart, and that's what matters. People leave stuff to non-relatives all the time. James and his dad chose the opinion aligned with their self-interest and stuck to it. Death brings out the crappy underside of a lot of people. Yes, this. Claire very much thought of you as her granddaughter. She wanted you to have the jewelry, sentimental items, and money because she loved and cared for you. This isn't about James' wishes or his dad's. This is about Claire's wishes. James and his dad probably want to sell them. Do not give in, OP. Glad to have Ian on your side. Maybe your only son didn't get much because he was an idiot his entire adult life, and his mom didn't want to reward him for that. If they don't stop harassing you, block them all. However, if those sentimental family heirlooms don't mean that much to you, you might offer them to whoever does really seem to care about them. My husband, 38 male, and I have 2 kids, male and female teens. Our son is autistic and gay, a very feminine boy. Up until a few months ago, all of his friends were girls. Then a few months ago, he started hanging out with a group of athletic boys, which my husband and I initially found odd. Then about a month into this, he told us that one of the guys was his boyfriend. The boys who he was hanging out with were extremely close to his boyfriend. He said his boyfriend's friends were sweet to him, asked him questions about jewelry and makeup, and were amazing. In the past few months, they've been coming to our house with their friend, and they definitely are lovely. They share some common interests like anatomy and physiology. The boys like it because of sports. My son is just a science nerd. My son also loves collecting stuffed animals. We see nothing wrong with this. One of my son's new friends collects plushes of baseball, football, etc. players. The boys recently came over for a sleepover. The one boy brought over his baseball and football player plushes, and he and the other boys started playing with them, as well as with my son's stuffed animals. I had them leave the door open. Son is still with his boyfriend, after all. When my daughter walked by his room, she started to make fun of him and his friends, and said it was embarrassing that her twin brother played with stuffed animals as a freshman in high school. The boys ignored her, but she then started making sounds imitating a baby and a toddler. When I heard those sounds, I went upstairs to see what was going on, as she was being pretty loud. I saw she was mocking the boys. I immediately made her go to her room and apologized to the boys for her behavior. I planned on talking to her after I made dinner. However, as I was cooking dinner, I got a text from my brother saying that his son, my nephew, saw my daughter recording the boys and making fun of them on her Instagram story. After that happened, I was worried for the safety of the boys. I didn't want her to hurt their feelings. Even more, they weren't doing anything wrong. So I called up my sister and told her I needed her to take my daughter for the night. My daughter knows her aunt well and has a good relationship with her, and my sister's a teacher, so I thought she could give my daughter a good perspective on bullying. I went into her room to tell her that her aunt was picking her up, and she started screaming at me. She eventually agreed to go after I threatened to take away her phone. The next day, I got a call from my mom asking why I abandoned my daughter and how it's natural for her to be embarrassed by her brother playing with plushies at that age. She also said that it could be traumatizing for her to sleep there instead of with me. My sister keeps reassuring me that I did the right thing. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Maybe grandma is behind the times and is part of the girls play with dolls and guys with toy cars, and swapping and sharing is against the rules kind of era. But you don't need to listen to her because this opinion is outdated. Do your kids normally have issues with each other? Could your daughter have a crush on one of the boys or something and is acting out for attention? In any case, as you're aware, the daughter's behavior was unacceptable and needed to be nipped in the bud. Publicly humiliating them by posting videos online without their permission is not okay. It isn't like you kicked her out of the house and told her to figure things out for herself. She went to stay with a family member she knew and trusted. But you need to have some serious conversations with your daughter about how just because she has an opinion doesn't make it right, and how shaming people on the internet to get her attention isn't okay. Perhaps some therapy might help her. Don't be mad, but show her actions and consequences. You are the idiot. Your daughter obviously is wrong for bullying her own brother and friends, but she's just a kid. You're wrong for not talking with your daughter, not punishing her, and shipping her away. She's your daughter and your responsibility, not your sister's. This literally doesn't solve anything or work to change your daughter's behavior. You can toss a bully out if they don't live there, but since she does, you should probably try to, parent your child. You need to step up. My female teen bedroom has a lock on the door. One of the conditions of getting the lock put on my door was that I must have 2 keys and keep one with my dad and his wife Sandra. So I could have a key, but they also needed access to one in the house. I wanted the lock in the first place because Sandra's kids and she and my dad's kids were always wandering in and out of my room, letting their 2 cats in, and my room would often have cat pee in it, or my stuff would just be all over the place. Monday I got home from school late because I stopped by my part-time job beforehand. When I got back, Sandra's kids were sad and crying or mad. Sandra yelled for me to see her in the kitchen, and my dad was on the phone with her. While I wasn't home, Sandra let her kids into my room, rummaging through my stuff until they found all the scrapbooks I made. It's a hobby and I have loads of them. A lot are either me and my friends or they're my family. None include Sandra, her kids, or her and my dad's kids. Lately, they haven't featured my dad either, just my mom who died when I was 7, my siblings who are both over 18 and don't live with us anymore, and my extended family. They got their feelings hurt because they saw how many I had, and none of them had a single photo in any of the scrapbooks. They also weren't mentioned in any notes. Sandra and my dad were telling me how badly I had treated them, and how I should be ashamed of myself for doing that kind of stuff. I said they should have never been in my room in the first place. Sandra replied that kids often want to be in their older siblings' rooms. I made a face that she realized was me thinking that they're not really my siblings. She told me I broke their hearts and hers because they've tried everything to be my family, and they've taken me into their hearts, and I've shown clearly with those scrapbooks that I've not taken them into mine. She told me that should make me feel bad. So I told them, Dad and Sandra, that they deserved to have their feelings hurt when they snooped, and her worst of all, because she knew what her kids wanted to do, and she unlocked the door for them to do it. Sandra sent me straight to my room. She and my dad both yelled at me and called me a heartless brat for saying that. Dad told me the kids did nothing wrong. I said he should blame Sandra for opening the door for them to snoop in the first place. He said my feelings were wrong, and it's all my fault that they feel hurt. Sandra told me nobody should say someone deserves to have their feelings hurt. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You have a lock on your door to keep your belongings safe and your privacy. Sandra abused your trust by allowing her kids to enter your room without your permission. None of them had the right to be in there in the first place, and that door was not unlocked for any other reason than Sandra telling her kids to snoop and find out what was going on in there and report it back to her. The sooner you get away from them, the better. Too bad you can't move in with one of your older siblings. You never let us into your heart? Well, I figured you let yourself in like you let yourself into my room. It's not my fault if you don't like what you see when you get there. It's like reading someone's diary and complaining that they didn't write about how much they love you. Sandra and OP's father aren't doing those kids any favors. What's the point of having a lock on the door? If they just let themselves in whenever they want, they need to start respecting your privacy and give you your own space. You didn't do anything to hurt them. You just did nice things for other people, and there's nothing wrong with that. The way they acted proves why they're not in the scrapbooks. Sandra violated your privacy and your respect by letting not just herself but her kids into your room to play with your stuff. If they had broken something valuable or expensive, would they be replacing it? If they hurt themselves with your items, will they be blaming you? This is an entirely toxic situation. I'm so sorry, hon. 2 more years and you can leave them all behind. My friend didn't have a necklace to go with her dress, so I offered her one of mine. She kept telling me how much she loved the necklace, so I told her that she could keep it, as I never wear it anyway. I gave her the necklace 4 months ago, but she recently wore it to another party, and my sister-in-law mentioned that I had a necklace that looked exactly like that. So my friend told her that I had given it to her, and my sister-in-law made a comment about how that was nice of me. I thought that was the end of it, but she told all of my in-laws and my husband. So now my husband's demanding I get the necklace back, and everybody's angry at me, and I don't understand what the big deal is. I've told him I can't ask for the necklace back since my friend clearly loves it so much, but he said I have a week to get it back, or he would get it back himself, and that he would think twice before giving me anything from now on. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Your husband bought that for you, not your friend. I understand that you don't like it, but that's something he used his money for in an attempt to get you something you like. I would be hurt if my fiance were to do something similar. At the very least, you should have talked to him about giving it away before you gave it away. Finding out from his sister was probably embarrassing and the worst way to find out. Not the idiot. Once given, the gift belongs to you, and you can do what you want with it. So why keep something you'll never wear? For people saying the opposite, how is it a gift if the husband holds it over her head or threatens the friend with taking it back? And if the husband chose a gift she wouldn't even wear, it wasn't a gift chosen in love. He didn't consider her taste. Using gifts as emotional manipulation isn't a sign of love. You can do anything with a gift once it's yours. It is nowhere near that simple when the gifts are from your partner. You are the idiot, even if you say this was not a family heirloom. It must be important if sister-in-law recognized it right away. It was something precious to him that he gave to you, and probably pretty expensive. Handing it off to your friend without at least giving him a heads up beforehand. 4 months, and it's clear that you had zero intention of telling him because your friend did, was insensitive. My husband and I have been together for 3 years. He has 3 kids from his previous relationship, and I have 1. She's the oldest, nearly adult. He's a dedicated man, puts God first, and loves everyone. My husband always complains that my daughter doesn't spend time with her step-siblings, or him, but she has reasons for that: school, health issues, and work. She does her best to spend as much time with them as possible, but she, on the other hand, complains that her stepdad tells her to take on the role of a babysitter whenever she's with her step-siblings. My husband denied that and said that my daughter was making up excuses not to have to spend time with his kids. For this issue, I figured that a family trip is what the family needs to get together and spend more time around each other. My husband liked the idea, but said that his kids are now uncomfortable around my daughter because of her attitude, and suggested that we let her stay home and have the house all to herself since that's what she's always wanted. I told him we should all go. He kept complaining till I snapped and told him to stop. I booked and paid for the whole family. However, my daughter told me she couldn't find her passport. We turned the house upside down looking for it, but couldn't find it. My husband said that maybe it was a sign from God that we should let her stay home so the trip wouldn't become a disaster. I ignored his comment, but later while I was cleaning his office, I found the passport tucked away in the third drawer under a ton of papers. This floored me. I confronted him with it, and he swore he had no idea why or how the passport got there. I checked the upstairs camera and saw him enter my daughter's room. That was it for me. I screamed at him and then canceled the trip completely. He started arguing, saying that I overreacted and he didn't want his kids to be miserable on the trip, and that he was willing to apologize to my daughter if and when I reconsidered my decision regarding the cancellation of the trip, because my stepkids would be devastated. But I said it was final and that it was done. He became cold and distant and said that he wanted to take some time to do some fasting and get guidance from God about how he should deal with the disrespect and control that I had displayed lately. Am I the idiot for canceling it altogether? Not the idiot. He can't use your daughter as free childcare for his children, so he intentionally alienates her from his family. And yes, I said his family, because it's very apparent he doesn't consider your family his family. Your husband wants to control you, what you do and what you want. Your husband wants to control your daughter, what she should spend her time on, and force her to do things she can't do. When he cannot easily do that, he uses manipulation and lying in order to accomplish it. He turns it around on you when he's held responsible for his actions. When that doesn't work, he throws a temper tantrum. He didn't marry you because he wanted a wife and stepdaughter. He was looking for two females to boss around and do his bidding. In God's name, amen. A man of God? You need to stop calling him that. It's blatantly untrue, and you need to open your eyes to his actions versus his words. He's a lying, abusive, sneaky, manipulative idiot trying to push out your daughter for himself and his kids. Your stepkids should be blaming him for his disgusting actions, trying to ostracize their stepsister. Without the camera, he might have succeeded. Do you want to be with someone that you can't trust? This man is using religion to walk all over you, and especially your daughter. He's attempting to exclude her because she asserted herself and refused to take on her womanly duty of providing free childcare so that he doesn't have to parent his own kids. OP, please save that video footage and get all the proof you can. And if your home cameras happen to capture him lying about it, save that too. If this goes to divorce court, you'll need all the proof you can get. You are the idiot, but only because you let this man treat you and your daughter poorly. Book a trip for just you and your daughter. My husband, 28, and I, 27 female, have been together for 5 years. We met online through a video game and then dated long distance for 3 years until I moved to live with him. I'm disabled and use a wheelchair, while my husband is completely non-disabled. He has known this since the first time we spoke, and it has never been a problem in our relationship. I currently don't work as I'm still finishing my master's, and we're both aware that in the future, I still might not be able to work full-time or even at all due to my health issues. I do what I can when it comes to household chores, but obviously, I can't do all of it. We're very happy with this arrangement. Nancy, 25 female, is a neighbor. She was my first friend here and really helped me to feel more at home in a foreign country. We sometimes talk about how amazing my husband is as a partner, and she knows the details of my medical diagnosis. But there have never been any red flags regarding her talking about my disability. Since I've known her, she's been in a string of bad relationships, which I always comforted her through because I know dating nowadays can be emotionally taxing. 2 days ago, my husband and I were late for an outing with Nancy and mutual friends, and someone made a joke about us having intimacy being the reason we're late, as it's uncharacteristic for us to be on time. Everyone laughed, and then Nancy said that couldn't be true because how would we even have intimacy considering I'm disabled? There was an awkward silence before my husband said that the details of our intimate life were none of her business. She looked embarrassed, so we all moved on. Nancy drank a lot throughout the night and ended up cornering me in the bathroom and badgering me about details on how I have intimacy. I was uncomfortable and told her so, and then she huffed and said it's ridiculous how someone like me ever managed to get with someone like my husband who's handsome and treats me like a queen, while she, who is normal, can't find a man who wants to commit. She also suggested I couldn't fulfill my husband's needs and that he must feel trapped and unsatisfied in our relationship. This made me angry, so I told her it's not my fault she's still single and that maybe her horrible personality pushes men away and that no amount of being normal can fix that. My husband and I went home after that and haven't spoken to her since. She's since shared the story with all of our mutual friends. While my husband and the majority of our friends are on my side, 2 women in our group say it wasn't very feminist of me to attach a woman's value to keeping a man, and that I knew it was a sore spot for Nancy. Am I the idiot for telling her what I did? Not the idiot, and she probably needed that vibe check badly. What she said, even before being drunk, was unjustifiable. Also, the other 2 friends that disagree with you sound like the parodies of feminists that misogynists come up with. Ridiculous and unhinged. Attaching a woman's value to her relationship. Sorry, but isn't that what she did when questioning your abilities to satisfy your partner? Disgusting. Sounds like the neighbor has the hots for OP's husband, and she needed more than a vibe check. The neighbor needed a kick in the butt. We have no idea what OP's relationship with their husband is, and neither does their neighbor, and we have no business knowing. Whatever their relationship, it is clearly satisfying since they seem very happy and secure. There's ableism, anti-feminism, so much happening here, my head is spinning. What does being a feminist have to do with the fact that she cornered you over some BS? The 2 disagreeing with how you handled it are idiots, as well as Nancy. She's a jealous and miserable idiot. I'm sorry your friend turned out to be such an ableist, intrusive moron. You don't need someone like that in your life. Instead, focus on the good friends and your amazing partner. When I, male 40, was 30, and my girlfriend Magdalene was 24, she was hit by a car and passed away. She had moved across the country to be with me after she finished university. It's been 10 years and my head is still not okay. She was hospitalized for a long time, long enough for her parents to come and forbid me from going to the hospital to be with her. When she passed, they took her back to their country and told me not to come to the funeral. They said that they would have me removed. I respected their wishes. I had to find out where her grave was from one of her old roommates. I only went to see it once because her mom was there with her little brother when I went. She lost it on me. It was my fault that she was in a city far from her family, and it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't dragged her to California. Her little brother told me he hated me, as only a young child could. So I left, and I never went back. I was broken for a long time. I eventually met my wife, and we've been married for almost a year now. I was working for a company when Magdalene died. I was the beneficiary of her life insurance. I was having trouble concentrating, so I took a leave of absence. After a couple of months of grieving, I resigned from my job and used the insurance money to fund my own little startup. I'm not Oprah rich, but I do okay. Magdalene's little brother was recently accepted to an Ivy League school. I know this because he and his parents all reached out to see if I would give them the insurance money to help with his tuition. These are people who I thought would be in my life forever, and they abandoned me at the lowest point in my life. I had friends, but I had no other family. They didn't just abandon me, they made it worse. Now they need my help. They say that if I don't give them the money, they will have to take out a mortgage on their house to pay for his education. They said I was in the wrong to keep the money, and that it should have gone to them initially. I loved these people once, but they destroyed me. The money they want is negligible to me. I could give it to them without in any way compromising my lifestyle. I want to brag about how little it will affect me, but I feel petty. It's just not much to me, but it's life-changing to them. My wife says it's my choice. I want to punish them for how they treated me, but I know Magdalene would want me to help her family. Am I the idiot if I don't give them the money? Not the idiot. Magdalene would have also wanted you at the hospital and funeral. She would have also wanted her family to support you as well as you support them. But that didn't happen. They were extremely cruel to you. What happened to her was not your fault at all. If they have to take out a second mortgage, that's their problem. Another case of they reap what they sow. It's been 10 years and they're just now asking? They could have been saving for 10 years and left you alone. If they cared about you, as opposed to the money, they wouldn't have barred you from the funeral and cut you off completely until you had something they wanted. There's a reason that you, rather than her family, were the beneficiary of her life insurance. She loved you and wanted you to have it. I, female 22, am currently staying with my eldest sister, Natalie 32, and her boyfriend, Micah 36, as I finish my semester in college. Natalie has a safe of all her valuable jewelry and other antiques that she keeps in a safe. Since some of her stuff is from our grandmother, she let me have the password to access the safe anytime I want it, but under the condition that I tell her first and not give the password to anybody else. She went away on a trip with her girlfriends 2 days ago and won't be back till Wednesday. So this morning as I was cleaning up, Micah started asking me questions about the safe. I tried to give him one-word answers, and he sensed that I was being secretive, but really, I was just being straightforward. He then asked me to give him the password to the safe. I was taken aback. I asked why, and he said that he's always been curious about what's in there and wanted to get a quick peek. I said I didn't have it, but he told me to quit lying because he heard Natalie say that I could open the safe anytime I wanted. I told him that still, it's not my property, and I can't share the password with him. He said it really wasn't a big deal, but I politely told him no. He got upset and reminded me who he was to Natalie and how I was just a guest in their house. I said that being a guest is entirely irrelevant in this case, but he chuckled and said that I was being ridiculous. I suggested he wait for Natalie to come home, but he got more upset and said that she's already refused to let him take a look. I shrugged and said that it wasn't my problem. We got into an argument, and I tried calling Natalie, but her phone's been off for hours. He yelled at me, saying I was disrespecting his own home, and rushed out. I'm home alone now and feel shaken because of how he yelled at me. I'm an awkward person with little to no confrontational abilities, and now I think I might have escalated the situation and made him feel upset, and as if I didn't trust his word when he said it'd just be a minute. Am I the idiot for standing my ground on this? Should I just let him have it if he gets back and asks for it? Not the idiot, and tell your sister immediately. Him trying to do it behind your back, the pressure he put on you, and that he scared you. It's all incredibly inappropriate for a 36-year-old man to try and bully his partner's younger sister while alone in the house. Never mind accessing a safe full of valuables his partner does not trust him with. Right, the sister must have refused him access for a reason. It's highly inappropriate for him to pressure OP for a password that he's already been denied by his girlfriend. There's probably a history here that OP isn't aware of. OP, do you have a friend you could stay with until your sister gets back? No one wants a peek inside a safe. Report this to your sister, as he may try social engineering to get access. I would just add that if this guy comes back and tries something similar, especially with the pressure, the yelling, etc., see if you can record him doing that. A recording might be helpful, just in case your sister doesn't believe you or thinks you exaggerated, etc. Yes, this. Call her now, immediately. Let her know exactly what has happened, including how threatening he was. She needs to know what her boyfriend was trying to do behind her back. Good on you for not caving in the face of immense pressure, but please inform your sister. I, female 29, have a phobia of horses. I put phobia in quotation marks because phobias are irrational fears, and I don't think my fear is irrational, but everyone else in my life keeps calling it a phobia. I do like animals, but horses are just not it for me. I don't like being around them and have no interest in petting them or riding them. When I was a little kid, a horse attacked me unprovoked and nearly killed me, and I was hospitalized. My best friend Eliza, female 29, is the opposite of me. When we were in high school, she was your stereotypical horse girl. She owns some horses of her own now and is still obsessed with horses. I don't interact with Eliza's horses and never have. However, I respect that we can have our interest, and Eliza and I have different things to talk about. I have a daughter, Tanya, and Eliza occasionally kindly volunteers to babysit for me. Eliza has a daughter of a similar age, and they play together nicely. Last week, I asked Eliza to babysit for me so my partner and I could go to my cousin's child-free wedding, and she agreed. So I paid Eliza to babysit and gave her some extra money to get herself and the girls some takeout. Well, after I picked Tanya up and was driving home, Tanya told me about how she sat on a horsey. At first I thought Tanya was talking about a toy rocking horse, but then she told me how she fed the horsey some apples. When I got home, I called Eliza and asked if she had my daughter interact with her horses. At first, Eliza denied everything and said she didn't know what I was talking about. Still, when I said Tanya told me about it, Eliza admitted that she held Tanya while she was sitting on one of her horses and let Tanya help feed one of her horses. Eliza went on and on about how safe it was and that she was in complete control of the situation. The horse stood completely still when she had Tanya on the horse's back. I told Eliza that what she did was irresponsible and that doing it behind my back was unacceptable. I was so angry and uncomfortable. She said that I was overreacting because of my phobia and that Tanya was completely safe, and went on about how well trained the horses were and how she knows so much about her horses. I said I didn't care and she should think about what she did. My family thinks I overreacted, that I should apologize to Eliza, and that I'm projecting my phobia onto my daughter. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Projecting your phobia onto your child is one of the worst things you can do for your child. Working on your mental health to get to that point needs to be a priority. Banning your daughter from horses isn't helping anyone. Her learning how to be around them safely is beneficial. Agree. You are the idiot. Yes, a horse can kill a person. So can a dog. So can a lot of animals. Holding a child while they sit on a horse and letting them feed or pet a horse with supervision, especially the supervision of a lifelong horse expert that owns and knows the horse, your daughter should be able to have experiences regardless of your irrational fears. Not the idiot. She took your child to an activity without discussing it with you first. That's the main issue here. In addition to that, she lied about it. There's a level of trust that was broken here, and it's being blamed on OP's phobia. She lied to you about what she did with your child. She broke your trust and didn't see the issue with her actions. Try to think about what's best for your daughter. Not that she has to love horses and be around them all the time, but that she'd be okay to be around a horse or take an occasional pony ride. I'm so sorry for what happened to you, but please don't pass that fear on to your kiddo.